we are going to go ahead and get kicked off here. This is Jacob Brook with Engineering Design Systems. I'm the marketing coordinator here, and we are definitely excited to do this webinar for you all today. But just a little bit of intro about the format of this webinar. It's going to be done by Heidi Boutwell from CAD Learning. We've partnered with them to bring you this webinar today. And a little background on her. She's the infrastructure content manager for CAD Learning. And at 4D Technologies, they develop on-demand learning material for Autodesk software, including Civil 3D, InfraWorks, Map 3D, Navisworks, et cetera, et cetera. She actually serves on the InfraWorks Customer Council, and actually has about 20 years of experience in this industry. So definitely someone who is very knowledgeable about InfraWorks as well as the civil field. But at the end, we are going to be having a time for questions. So about the last 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to have questions. So feel free to shoot us a chat question in the chat, and we will get those taken care of either during the presentation if they're relevant, or at the end if that's better suited for that. So without further ado, help me welcome Miss Heidi Boutwell.
Hey guys, can everybody hear me? So, I'm Heidi, and I work for CAD Learning, and we do a lot of e-learning. We do individual lessons and training on lots of topics. I'm the infrastructure content manager, as Jacob mentioned. Anyways, I've been doing civil design for about 20 years. I've worked in a lot of different industries, residential, subdivision, commercial, industrial, special projects, you name it, I've pretty much touched it. And my bread and butter started out with Sofdesk and AutoCAD way back in version like late 12, early 13. I was on DOS and Sofdesk 7.5. And then I moved more from that to a land desktop. And then from that to 2005 on the first beta of Civil 3D. And I've been using Civil 3D for a long time. So InfraWorks here came out in, I think it was 2012, 13, or 14, somewhere in that late time. I didn't get a chance to touch it to about 14, but I look at InfraWorks as a tool, another awesome tool for our repertoire. Now, Civil 3D is our bread and butter. That's what we use on a daily basis to do all of our design with. It's what we use to make our construction documents, our sheet sets and plans with. It's what we use to do our volume calculating, all of it. That's what we do with Civil 3D. So what makes InfraWorks so much better? And that's the big question. That's why we're here. Why do I want to use InfraWorks? There are benefits to using InfraWorks 360. If you have it already, awesome. If you don't, you might want to look into it. For me, and this is probably true for most InfraWorks people who've used it, it is the biggest seller, is what it boils down to. It actually makes awesome presentations. It's the first three-dimensional program for civil engineering that does presentationing. So Revit was to replace AutoCAD architecture, and it gave all the structural guys three-dimensional models, right? We didn't get that. We got Civil 3D instead. But to come up to speed and make things look more realistic like Revit, we got InfraWorks 360, which is awesome. So it makes great presentations, whether that's before, on the preliminary side, trying to get this to your client to see what their potential project could be, all the way to the end and final design. And that's really depending upon you, how you want to use it. I like to use it as the beginning of a lot of stuff. It really does pop. And people who have never seen it, clients that come in the door, they're used to the good old drawings, the 2D flat files and all that, when they see this and how quickly it responds, it's an instant seller. They're like, hey, they're up to date on the latest and greatest technology. They can quickly get to my house, or to my project location with just an address, and it gets a fairly recent informational of the area. So you can get the topology, you can get local buildings, local roads, everything but utilities pretty much. And it really depends on, most areas have all that. So is it in the model builder and accessible for model builder or not? But it makes awesome presentations. When you get to that wonderful spot that your project has been brought, your client brings in this project, they say, here it is. You could go straight to that project, download its location instantly, and get its topology within 5 minutes. You can't do that with Civil 3D. You have to go out and send the surveyor out there, bring the survey back in, and then put it in. It's going to take a day, maybe 2. And take you about, half an hour more, at least to get the survey in there, and another hour or so to make the surface, or longer. With InfraWorks, once you get it there and into InfraWorks 360, you can analyze any potential issues that might be costly. Just because a client wants to do a subdivision or a road in this project doesn't mean where they think it should go is the best option. And this gives you the 3-dimensional ability to show them why. You can show them that there's going to be a huge cut and fill problem on the on the south or north side. It's going to be really costly to do that. Maybe we should shift the road a different direction. One of the big things, so you can potentially avoid huge hazards before you ever get into the actual designing of the project. That helps you really convey that to the client. The client understands because it's 3-dimensional. They understand it. Once you do get going, you can send your drawings, your finished preliminary design, to Civil 3D. Or if you have something in Civil 3D kind of worked up from, say, the surveyor sent a plat, and you kind of put that in and you want to marry the two together, you can send it backwards. You can go from Civil 3D into InfraWorks. So they kind of work hand in hand. Really depends on that point in your project where you have information versus where you don't. So where do you use it? I use it for getting everything before the survey comes in. And then I'll send it to Civil 3D and hope, and this is the biggest problem I think I have with surveyors right now, is they don't always survey in their coordinate system. You hope that what you get from the surveyor is in the right coordinate system, because InfraWorks 360 is so dependent on coordinate systems, it's not even funny. So you hope that when you send it across, it marries up. If not, I'm adjusting stuff. And once I've done adjusting and it marries together, then I have a viable preliminary I can work from. I can take the alignments that come over, I can take the surfaces that come over, and I can put them into corridors, create the profiles, and do my sheeting. And then if I want to see what the end result looks like in 3D when I'm all finished, I can send it back to the same project in InfraWorks 360, which is beautiful. So it accepts files from Civil 3D, obviously, and it accepts Revit files. So let's say your client has a commercial building or a residential subdivision going on, and they've contracted with a structural and an architect, and they use Revit. If they've got the buildings already done and modeled, you can take those models, those Revit files, and import them in to InfraWorks 360 and place them in the lots where they should go. I don't always suggest doing that at the preliminary stage. A lot of people get lost, they get hung up on the 3-dimensional side of things. They see the beautiful look and they throw a building on there, and they have some standard buildings in InfraWorks, some single family and double, 2-story and single-story residentials, and you throw those on there, and they go, well, that's not the building I'm going to design. So it is a good idea to, and I know like James Wedding from Autodesk made his own little buildings. He calls them monopoly houses, and they aren't in InfraWorks. I have to go find them myself, but somewhere on the web you can, go search up monopoly houses, use your Google foo, find those from James Wedding, because you can bring those as what they call city furniture and place them on the lots like little monopoly houses all around the lots, so that the client doesn't get hung up on the structure that actually looks like a building, but that's not really what he wanted designed. And that's, one of the ways to avoid it. The other thing you can do is you can bring in 3D drawings, 3D AutoCAD drawings, or other drawings that were 3D-dimensionally drawings that are actually in 3D, and place them interactively, or if they're already geolocated, just swap them in there, which is great. So some of the key benefits there are great to have. So the other question is InfraWorks' speed. Civil 3D is fairly fast. It's very responsive until you start orbiting in 3 dimensions. When you start orbiting, you've got a heavy load, a corridor, and several surfaces. Things start to really slow down until you get into orbit mode. It's like the conversion from the 2D to the 3D can lag depending on your machine. InfraWorks is always in 3D, so it's pretty fast for orbiting, extremely fast. Opening the program, you might take a minute or 2, maybe 3, enough to go, grab a quick cup of coffee, come back. Accessing a file in the program the first time, just opening it and getting into it, depending on what's in that file, could take 2 minutes, could take 30 seconds, could take 5 minutes. It really depends on what's in the file and where it was left off when you exited the last thing. The other thing to note is files in InfraWorks 360 you can't save. You can duplicate, but they're always saving. Every time you make a move, they save that move, okay? So you're a constant saving. And there's no save as feature. because that's how SQLite works. They don't work in DWG format, they work as SQLite. So it's constantly updating. So every time you make a move, it constantly saves. Other things to note when you're in InfraWorks, you can get existing conditions for any project from their model builder feature, which can take, depending. I did one this morning, it took 2 minutes. I went and zoomed in using model builder to my location where I wanted it, created the file, and it took 2 minutes for it to get back to me. Sent me an email, even told me it was ready. So I, 2 minutes later, I've got this little tile, it's ready to click and go, and when I open it, it's wonderful. So the next question, survey data. Okay, so yeah, we have surveyors, and they love to survey, and everybody goes, well, InfraWorks can't handle survey data. They can't do anything with it. There's no parcel creation, there's no survey point stuff, so you really, really can't survey. So let's talk about that. Things you can import into InfraWorks. You can import in survey data if it is in the right format. You can't import a text file or CSV file, okay? What you can do is take those and put them into, say, Civil 3D and convert them to SDF. When it's in an SDF format, that's an Autodesk format that was created, when it's in there, it'll bring it right into InfraWorks 360, and you can assign a style to those points. So my suggestion when you do this is do it in point groups, separate them out into point groups, and bring them in individually as individual SDFs, because all the points will come in as, say, one style. And maybe you've got fire hydrants in there and iron pins and trees and all this other stuff. So if you separate them out into trees and then the fire hydrants and then, the pins, as you bring them in, you can assign a specific style so that they show up correctly in your drawing. Otherwise, they're all going to look like, I don't know, fire hydrants, You can select points individually after they are imported in and change them that way. You can do it manually, one at a time, or you can do them all en masse in the file you imported at one time, okay? There's other types of GIS data. There's a lot of options for GIS import. You got shapefiles, you got SDF, DGN, there's a lot, and you'll see it in a few minutes here when I show you the real thing. You can also bring in surfaces made in Civil 3D, whether that's your existing surface, your proposed surface, a preliminary, a volume surface. You don't have to change anything. You just bring it in, and then you have to assign a style to it so it looks different than what you already see. So those are some of the awesome features of InfraWorks 360. So before I get into it, just real quickly, when should we use InfraWorks 360? Sitting there with a client, he brings in a project, awesome. Throw it up on your computer, bring your laptop in, bring in the workstation, connect it to a projector, use InfraWorks 360 to show them where they're at. They brought it in a piece of paper, they said, this is what I bought, go show them that way. Watersheds. InfraWorks 360 does a very decent watershed analysis. It's based, the ground data is not based on survey data per se, it is aerials, okay? So you're not going to have the most accurate terrain, but if you need to get a watershed analysis for a culvert crossing a road or a pond, and you need to find out where the actual watershed is, instead of doing it yourself by looking at all the contours and turning on the slope arrows and saying, okay, where's this water all coming from, and do I have enough survey data for my surveyors to say that that's really the entire watershed, which that happens a lot, believe it or not. Your survey doesn't exactly go out for miles looking at the entire area outside of the project. It always, within 200 feet of the project, that's all you're going to get. But if you really want to analyze the watershed for the project, InfraWorks can do that. You just have to keep getting the bigger, which I learned this. I got my site down in Model Builder and I did a watershed analysis, and my watershed went off the site and disappeared. And I said, wait a second, it's bigger than my site. So I went and got another Model Builder tile and I expanded my, area of interest. And I did it again, got a watershed analysis. It was still off the site 3 times later. I got a very large section of where my project was in the middle, tiny little project, huge section of land, do a watershed. Okay, this watershed is large. There is a reason why we have 6 by 10, 2 of them, 6 by 10 culverts going under the road, because it incorporates this whole stream that goes all the way back up here to this pond. I never would have known that from my survey. So fast watershed analysis. And when you're doing the watershed analysis, maybe it takes 5 minutes, maybe 10 if you're lucky, because it's got to talk through the cloud, get the information, bring it back and put it in your file. You can ask for it, and it sometimes, depending on the size, fast, sometimes takes a few minutes. You can quickly lay out roads. And when you lay out a road, if it's going to cross and it sees it in the terrain that's going to cross like a culvert, or not culvert, but a channel or a stream or a river, it will automatically insert a bridge along the road, of which you can go back and change how the bridge looks, whether it's, you know, steel or concrete. You can change up the piles and the footings and the foundations, and you can send that bridge information off to structural, what was it, AutoCAD structural for analysis, and to Revit. So it will do both roadway and bridge layout, and it's simple roads to massive interstates. So it has just about a little bit of everything, and you can customize what's going on. You're not stuck with just the basics. You can customize just about everything in InfraWorks. And that's really a seller right there. It's a lot better than assemblies. It's just really fast. You could put together roads in pieces and then make your own custom cross section from that one road that you made out of pieces out of components, which is great. After you get a road down, you can throw out some really fast drainage on it. So some quick catch basins and storm manholes with pipes, and that information can be tossed back into Civil 3D, and it will turn into a pipe network. While it's in InfraWorks, though, they aren't connected. So if you move a catch basin or a manhole, you need to flip up, or in this case, go under your terrain and make sure to move the pipes as well, because the pipes are not connected to the structures. Just a word of warning. But once it translates over into Civil 3D recognizes it as a pipe network and transitions it into a fully connected pipe network. And again, final pass off to the client. Once you're completely done in Civil 3D, if you really want or at least get a beyond preliminary, you've got it into Civil 3D, now you've really got the roads laid out, you've really got the profiles laid out, and you're looking at volumes. Now is the time to talk to the client, make sure this is really, really what they want. You can take that file from, say, the Civil 3D and put it back into InfraWorks 360. So those are some of the best things about it. All right, let's get to it. Let's talk InfraWorks and what this is. So this is InfraWorks. I've got it open. I'm going to minimize it real quick. It's a simple little icon, little I, says InfraWorks 360, and it helps if my tool. I love it when that happens. There we go. Alternate tab. Gotta love that. Yeah. Love Windows 10, how it takes that, you know, auto toolbar and flips it down. Anyway, so once you're in the InfraWorks 360, this is Hidden Springs. It's in Biloxi, Mississippi. Okay. Now, I got this from Model Builder, and I would click out and show you Model Builder at this moment, but it takes about 7 minutes for this thing to load up, because I put some different proposals in here with different things, so I make sure I hit all the topics before everything's over. So, and hopefully one of you guys will tell me when I'm near my end, because watching and designing is always so fun. Okay, so this is Biloxi, Mississippi, Hidden Springs. Our area of interest today, let's see here, we have a power line easement here. We have a power line easement here. There's my land. This is my land right here. And when I talk about watershed analysis, when I did my first watershed, I just got this little zone right here. My watershed went all the way up here and cut off. So then I got this zone right here. And I thought, okay, it's just a little bigger. And it went up here and it cut off. So then I got what you see here, and I did a watershed, and from here, and it stretches all the way up here and around and back and goes down here to this big creek. And it brings in the rivers and streams, okay? And when you select something in InfraWorks, I'm going to zoom in here and select it. It lights up and it tells you what it is. And if it's, hey, look, it's the Biloxi River. Okay, it gives you a name, lets you change up styles. This is the base what it brought in when I did the initial watershed analysis, okay? So it brought in this. It brought in several other streams in my area, which is great. Now, what else did it bring in? Model Builder. Here's one of the streams. It's a little thin black line. See that? It's kind of hard to get zoomed in on and click. That is one of my streams, and it's part of the watershed. It won't always let you click. Anyways, Model Builder, what does it bring in? So these are the roads Model Builder brought in. This is just a dirt road, nothing fancy. We have another sidewalk on Woodland Hills Drive. Okay, not bad. I know I got a power line easement. What's this road over here? This is Old Wool Market Road. Okay, I got roads of varying different sizes. They're not all the same. They don't all have green space. Some of them are different. So you have different styles. Oh, did you notice? I've got 3D building. And now I'm grabbing and tilting. I can't do this in Civil 3D, guys. I can do it in InfraWorks. I am slowly rotating up. And you can see the depression in the terrain that it brought in. You can see the sloping gentle hill, and you can see the buildings. Now, I know this is a residential area out here, okay? And I know that these buildings should look like residential homes. If that's the worst case scenario, that my building looks like an industrial building, but I still have the building for say, and the height correct, I'm not going to complain at this point. I think clients can get the point that there are structures out there. They're actually all residential homes, believe it or not. So, but yeah, they look like industrial buildings. Do you notice when I hover, I get a little pop-up, and if I actually click on that, it will take me to this exact location in the street map on Microsoft's Bing website, and it will take me right there and give me the latitude and the longitude and the height, everything. It'll instantly do it. It's very nice. But I have instant look, so I can go upstairs, I can go downstairs. Something to note, a lot of the engineers don't realize this. This is built on the actual earth, not some blank canvas. This is really Biloxi, Mississippi, and that's why you can see the horizon and the clouds up here, okay? So please be aware of that, that they say, well, I want this to look black. You can't do that. That's the sky. It's real world. You can take an image of this and fill it in with something else, okay? Other things to know, I can keep going. You can see my relief, and I can go underground, okay? So I just have to keep tilting. I can go upside down. Just be careful when you're going. The mouse buttons are a little backwards. I'm using my left mouse button to pan and zoom, using my mouse wheel to zoom in and out, but my left mouse is doing all the up and down rotation. My right mouse, there's my right, is my hand pan. All right. So I've got my rough location of where things are going to be. We're going to start down here around this location and kind of trace up. You can see this thin black line. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. And we're just going to, that zone, that's where we're going to work today. So this is the master template, and you don't want to really do a lot of stuff on the master template. You want to move it into another piece. So let's go ahead and add in, I'm going to go to soil survey. This is a copy of the master, and the only thing I did differently here, once it changes over, takes a few seconds, is I dropped in a shapefile. Now I have some other shapefile options I can drop in. And let me find my, there we go. There's my shapefile, my Windows Explorer. I went out to the soil survey website. Everybody loves that soil survey website. And I said, I need my area of interest, and that's the AOI. So this is the AOI-A. But I would like to know about my soil, my different soils. So if I take a drag and drop, it will instantly come in as a data source. There's my data source, comes in as no feature type, and here it is. I have to designate what it is. I'm going to make it a coverage, and that's just something that goes over top. I want to make sure that it drapes. That's important on the source tab. And I can give a rule. That's down here under style rule. And I can choose the plain Jane coverage rule. I can go soft cost, zoning. Maybe I'll take it, and this is soil. So let's be realistic. It's a land cover, maybe. I'm going to put it sand light. Yeah, that will work. Give it some type of color. It's kind of like Map 3D and assigning, you know, styles to your shapefiles as they come in. And this should drape over, and it'll regen, and it may take a minute or so, depending on how fast your computer is, and there it is. So it instantly brings in a shapefile and covers my original. So that's the entire, okay, so the whole thing is soil anyway. That's real helpful, right? But you can see it's got different soil. So what's interesting is my soil survey, when I took it, it showed all these funny looking shapes that you see lighting up. I can select a shape, and I can specifically just change the color of this one shape. That way it looks different. Okay, so I can go through here, and I can go through my more, and I can get really technical, just start picking some random, maybe it's magenta colors. Okay, so presentations mentioned, this is a presentation tool. I'm going to close my data sources. And as I select them, I can just go through and continue to make this look like a very pretty soils map if I want to. So now I know what type of soils I got out there. That's great. Okay, so I got an idea. I know what I'm dealing with. It's buildable. There's sand. There's a lot of sand. What about my plat? So I've got a plat that I was given by the surveyor that they went through and took the time and actually made. I brought it into Civil 3D, and I made it into parcels Took me a little while to do that, but I'd really like to see what it looks like here so I can show my client. And this will take a minute or so to come over and regen once it gets there. And SDF files, depending on what you bring in, can take a while, and some may not. The plat a little while to get in. These are all live. I can select a line. I got to kind of straighten out to do this though. Let me zoom in. So you can see I barely highlights when I grab it, but it does select the line. It does let me know if there's an area. It gives me the parcel number that was done. And if it was a really truly good parcel, it would actually show up with areas, which I'm at. That's interesting. It should be showing me areas. So the things you discover, right? Okay, so you can select these, you can move them around. That's what these little grips are for. You can stretch them out, you can change them up if you so choose. So you've got parcels. Well, I've also got points, right? And let's go ahead and bring those in real quick. And I brought them in as an I'm going to bring them in as an SDF. So here's my options. This is everything I can bring in. Okay, it's my data sources. So civil 3D drawings, 2D overlay. This is 2D overlay on the layout tab of the drawing file. Okay, if it's a model space, it will not come in. It comes in on the layout tab or from that information. So make sure you have a viewport and it's all scaled in and everything. IMX, Revit, City, DGN, IFC. There's a lot of options, and I'm going to choose SDF. I go to SDF. I go to my handy dandy drive and my folder location, and this is the same file that has parcels, but this time I'm only going to bring in points. When I do this, I have to choose which one do I want to use. I already brought in the parcels, so there's no point in bringing that in. I'll bring in the points. It's going to add the data source, and it's going to take it a little bit. It may take a minute or so to do so. Actually, right there, no feature points. So it's up here. It's not. I have to configure it before it will show it. So we have a couple options. You can configure here. You can right-click and configure. Either one gets you there. There we go. We're in the configure source again. The little triangle. Yeah, it's a triangle. Little chevron warning. Chevron says, "Hey, you got to designate this." Well, this is a point. And since they're points, I want to make sure I choose points of interest. And from there, I want to assign a style. I know I tried flags before, and flags are really tiny. I don't suggest it. I'd start myself with a 3D marker. I get my 3D marker going, make sure I am draping. Always check that source tab. Always set it to drape. Hit close and refresh. And this is either it should be my boundary. Yeah, okay, so that's the boundary I'm looking at. See, all my little points came in. Aren't they pretty? They're little blue, funny looking points of interest. But that is the boundary survey of the entire project. Now I could go through here and select it one at a time and click on the style, and I could change it up to, I don't know, a purple push pin. Let's see where it goes. It's so small, and that's where the problem is. See how small that is? I really got to zoom in to get to it. So I like the big blue marker because it's really obvious. There's no messing that one up. It's definitely there. So I've got my parcels in here. I've got my points. Two things I've heard from people is you can't do this. I just did it. Now, here's the other thing. They've also given us the ability to create easements and parcels. The same thing as I go out here. So if I go in here and I need to draw on a parcel, I can now draw in a parcel. All done. So we got a parcel. And when I draw it in, it actually gives me an area. So you can manually do that. When you draw in a parcel, you can also convert it to a right-of-way or an easement. Okay, and you can add curves to it, and you can draw more. You can add more points. You can delete points. It's pretty simple. Hover, right-click. You can remove it, convert it to an arc. Lots of little options. Okay. So from our plat, we're happy with that. We've got our plat in. Let's take a look at what happens if we want to put some roads in. Because I've got existing roads going right through this, right? Roads are easily deleted. Select the road, hit the delete key, and they're gone. And they are literally gone. These two buttons are your undo and redo buttons, but they don't always work so hot, so just warning. So here's my existing road. This is actually, I know for a fact that this is a logging road. It was cut in here to log this whole site. This site was logged about 5 years ago. So this image is about 7 years old. But this road is only 5 years old. Interesting that it's in there and the image is not updated. Anyways, to delete it, I've selected it, and you notice all these grips appear. That means it's a sketch road. It looks like dashed red lines. To delete it, I hit delete, and it goes bye-bye. I love that. It just, without, hey, look, the dirt road. Still there. Okay. Now, I need to actually put in some roads. These are my right-of-way lines, of course. That's really, really obvious, right? Okay, so local road. You select a local road. You have local, collector, arterial, highway, and component. That's piecing it together. Lanes separated from curves, separated from sidewalk, piecing it in components. Okay, lots of options. A lot of options. So I could do sidewalk with green space. I could do paving. I could do different streets. There are so many options. I'm going to start with the basic sidewalk and green space. Just select it. Once I select it, I get the crosshairs. I'm going to start down here. Put a curve there, to a straight line here, to a straight line. Center my curve somewhere up here. And you notice I have a tooltip. If I right click, I can put in curves, spirals. I can undo and end draw. I'm going to go here, right click, and I could double click or hit end draw. Your choice. Very fast. Can't do that with alignments and profiles. Wish I could. Remember, this is preliminary. We're just showing the client really what we would like to do. Now that this thing is in here, if I zoom in, I start to get stationing. I can select a radius and I can click and grab and change it. Okay. I can add vertices if I need to. Hold on, there it goes. So you can convert it to components. I can add instant drainage to it now that it's out there. I can make a right of way. Maybe a bridge needs to go over this. Oh, I can show it in profile view. That's my profile. The green line is my road. The black line is my existing. I can lift this up a hair. Take that back. My black line's proposed. My green is existing. They changed it on me. I want to put a PVR right there. I'm going to right click and say, oh, where'd it go? Right click and say add PVI. Make sure you don't have the other one selected when you do this. I'm not going to go 10%. That's for darn sure. 6 looks okay. We're going to come back down. About 1%. All right. So when I click off here, note my little at the bottom. You have one or more edits on the road. Move the cursor out of the profile view. Now this profile view, we drag around. The minute I move it out, it will update the road. And they did that for a reason. People with really long roads, this thing was updating like crazy. That's not going to work. I can see that right now. Drag this over here. We need to do a little bit of modification. Grip through editing, lots of grip editing, which I love. And it's fast, as you can see. It's not super slow. I mean, it's doable, okay? So once you get a road out here, and I could do more roads, which I will in a minute. I'll show you how many more I get down here. I can adjust the grading. Over here in my stack, I select grading. And right now it's set to fixed width and 32.8, but I'd rather do slope, so I'll change it to slope. And we'll do 4 to 1, 4 to 1, and we'll do like a 15-foot maximum. You can see it right here where it's kind of glowing, funny. That's my grading. Yeah, I bet it is. So this is my grading line. You can see it. When I just click off a grading, that'll disappear, usually. And if I tilt in 3D, I can show my client that I'm cutting through the ground there, okay? So adding roads is quick and dirty, great for presentations. Now that I've got my roads out, what if I want to do some standard grading in these lots, right? We'll flip over here to my grading one. And the beauty of making proposals is I can go through and draw a bunch of stuff here, switch over to another proposal, and this is remembered in the original proposal, and the other one has other stuff already done in it. So, it's out here. If it does, it hopefully remember. It's not fully there. If it was, I'd have all of my stuff here. Okay, there we go. All right, local roads. Let's just draw a few more in here real quick. Nothing fancy. Just do some really quick, and this is the beauty of InfraWorks, is being able to go through there and just draw some more roads. Click. Once it gets done. Okay, so I missed a road, right? No, I need to add the point. we can go down here and stretch it, and then we'll add a vertice. Move that over for the time being. Okay, I'm going to throw some grading down here somewhere. Once this gets down, escape once to get out of it. I love how it did that. Let's put that back on there. Intersection. We want a real intersection. We don't overlap. Like that's a real intersection. This happens because sometimes you get elevation. When it elevates, just got to drag it down. So yeah, you can modify the profile view and elevation. Look at that in 3D. Come on. Find it. There it goes. See, I got instant intersection. All right, so let me back out. All right, let's do some quick grading. So down here under land areas, this is our grading area. You have to start with a style, doesn't matter what you pick. I'm gonna pick field graph. And I'm gonna just click along the area I want to grade. Now, I'm not doing this at a time because you know, that gradings don't exactly see each other in InfraWorks. So I'll do a grouping at a time. Is what I'll do. Although you could, if you want to keep the grading within the lot, do it. So we get an instant what looks like a coverage. I need to apply a rule. So I'm going to click on the rule. I'm going to go to more styles. There's only one there. We got 3 to 1. We got, but I guess we could do 3 to 1. That'll work. And once it applies, we have grading. Now, when I press escape, I get the cones. The cones tell me these little cylinders, these guys are my elevation. So I can grab these up. Also gives me a quick area. As you can see, it now goes up. So I can ramp up what's going on with my grading. So it's very fast for grading, and it's keeping some of the lot lines. These lot lines are draped along the existing surface, not along. So as you clear through the lot line, you'll have that little problem. But that's not a huge issue. So grading's in there. What about if I wanted to add some homes? So I put some homes on here real fast, just to give you an idea of what it looks like, because there's different homes. There's a couple different styles, and it depends on how you access these styles to get these homes. Like these have carports in them, whereas this guy does not. Okay, and he's smaller, considerably smaller. So everybody wants to know, how did you do that? Okay, I cheated. There is cheating things you can do. In here, under the data sources, you have the ability, under that guy, to do a row of trees. Okay. Yeah, trees. I said trees, not houses. I'll start over here. I'll start here, come up here. I'll finish here. I'm going to put trees down initially. Okay. So I would cheat. Little itty bitty trees. All right. All right. That's not what I want though. I'm going to click on my style, go to more styles. And then under my folders in the styles, I'm going to go up to neighborhood, residential. And here's my options. Okay, so I'm gonna grab the single story and hit OK. Oh my gosh, that's like way too many, right? Hit escape one time, and now I have the bar. So I can kind of back it off a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, perfect, that'll work. We'll leave it. No, wait, there's 7. Well, we can always delete. Hit escape. And once I do that, they're accessible individually. So now I can rotate. Look at that. And what I find is this is the same exact house. And it's smaller, which, you know, you can go through there and change out the size of the house. Actually, let me type in the angle. Get back here. 180. Get it to flip 180 on me. There we go. Yeah, so you can type into those toolboxes. You just start typing. You get the gizmo over here. The gizmo moves it everywhere, or you can go up in the just the Y only, or maybe the X only once it's lit. Okay, and this is the Z, the blue. But the big box, we'll drag it all over. And the little orange arrows are your rotationals. So you can quickly rotate and reposition to kind of get an idea of, let me get it 90. So it goes down. Hey, look, I cheated. So yeah, this is where the clients a lot of times will look at this to go, but that's not the house I want to use. I'm not stuck to using these houses. I can bring in a 3D file or whatever I want and use whatever 3D model or city furniture that you can come up with. Okay. So your homes, they're all the same style, just different sizes. And well, how do I shrink the size? That's a scale thing. And at the moment, I'm not just converting to scale is always difficult. Is trying to remember how to convert to scale, but you can shrink the sizes and you can go up and down from there.
Hey Heidi, we have about 5 minutes left.
Sure. So that pretty much gets us to a preliminary presentation design for your client. Now I'd flip over to the Civil 3D one that I have up here, but I also know how long it takes for it to regen because I was having problems with that, so I'm not going to bother. But you can, just letting you know, bring in Civil 3D files up here, okay? When you do, Civil 3D cannot be open, and vice versa. If you're in Civil 3D, InfraWorks 360 cannot be open when bringing it into Civil 3D. The heavier the file, the longer it takes. The lighter the file, the faster it is. Brings in parcels, gradings, corridors, and pipe networks. So just FYI. So that pretty much, I think, wraps it up.
And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or anyone here at EDSI, and we can definitely get you in touch with Heidi and the CAD learning team as well. Thank you all for joining us.